every year, his parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up as usual for the festival. When the festival was ended, they started to return. The boy Jesus stayed in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. Assuming he was with the group of travelers, they went a day's journey. Then they started to look for him among their relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem to search for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and at his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Child, why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you in great anxiety." And he said to them, "Why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" But they did not understand what he said to them. Then he went down with them, and he came to Nazareth, and he was obedient to them. His mother treasured all these things in her heart, and Jesus increased in wisdom and in years and in divine and human favor. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. And his mother treasured all of these things in her heart. I'm starting to wonder what that actually means. These are some pretty hard things she's treasuring in her heart. It's starting to sound a little bit like when a Southern person says, "Oh, bless your heart." That maybe there could be more than one meaning wrapped up in that sentence. But Christmas Day has come, and it has gone. And there was lots of activity, lots of stress, good stress and bad stress. There was a lot of preparation and planning that went into scheduling all of those events, and some of it was good. For some, it was glorious and grand, and for some, it was difficult. It's often a season of excess, which can be good and can be bad. But now it's gone, and the calendar page has been pulled off, and we reveal another day. Just another day. Those days, they keep marching on. And this Sunday after Christmas, it is a life goes on kind of Sunday. It's a come down off that mountain kind of Sunday. This week we go back into a world where, dished up alongside all of that hope that we've been building up for these past few weeks, comes uncertainty and difficulty. We go from that call to Advent, that call to wait and watch, to long for a Savior, to long for completion, to that glory of Christmas Eve and all its declaring joy. And then we go to the quiet acceptance of Christmas Day, where we bask in the glow of the one who comes when we remember God is with us. We experience all of that and more. And we can say it was a good Christmas. And the truth is, it was a good Christmas. But Christmas isn't quite over yet. There is still more to Christmas. There's more waiting, there's more longing, there's more proclaiming and more glorifying to be done. We're still in the midst of it, though it feels further and further away. we are still pretty far from where Christmas calls us to be. We still haven't quite found what it is that we're looking for. Luke 2:41-52 that we read this morning feels like quite an abrupt change after Friday night service. We go from stories of a baby in a manger to now, every year, the parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of Passover. Regular thing. And it's not that we don't know this story. We know it. And as a matter of fact, it's the only childhood story we have about Jesus in all 4 Gospels. We have a sprinkling of baby stories and this one story from when Jesus was 12. And that's it. That's the whole life story of Jesus growing up. And it's not terribly satisfying to us. And as stories go, it doesn't even seem particularly riveting of a story. And like I told the kids earlier, some of us have already lived this story ourselves. We've been the child who was lost but didn't know they were lost. We've been the parent in high anxiety looking for a child under our care. And Luke says that Jesus' family made this trip to the Passover every year. It was just another year going to Jerusalem for the Passover. It was a mark of the truly devout. But it was a part of the law that all Jews who lived outside of Jerusalem should come back during the Passover. And so while Jesus' family stands out as being particularly devout believers in God and following his ways, they're not doing something that's very out of the ordinary. It's not. In one sense, it's not very special. It's special in the same way that our Christmas Eve worship is special. We do it once a year. It's a special event, but we do it every year. It's not like, oh, this year we're going to do something new. We're going to have Christmas Eve. No, we do that every year. And we like it, and it's special, but it's just something we do. So maybe it was that everyday usualness of it, the routineness of the trip, that created this kind of lax in security protocols for the group. And remember, Jesus is 12. So 12-year-old boys don't necessarily like to be coddled. So maybe on the way there, he might have been up front walking. The way that they went on these journeys was in groups for security. So like the men would all walk together up in the front, and then the women would follow and the kids would kind of chatter along. And so maybe he, during some of the journey, traveled with the men, because he's almost a man, he's 12. But maybe he also hung out with his buddies and was back with the women and the children at some times. And so it's pretty easy to imagine that when you're back here, you think he's up there, and when you're up there, you think he's back here. And it kind of reminds me of a field trip, right? You go on have you ever had to go on a field trip with your kids? And you're supposed to be with these particular groups, right? But what happens? People filter out, right? The parents all end up together. The boys end up in one group causing trouble. The girls end up in another group giggling at the boys. It's just kind of how it all falls out. And so they finally make camp for the night, and they can't find Jesus. So Mary starts freaking out. And they ended up, I don't know if they had to stay the night because now it's nighttime and they couldn't start till the morning. Imagine going through that night. But it takes 3 days until they finally find him. And Mary, when she finally comes across Jesus, is a little miffed, as you can imagine that you might be, especially when Jesus looks at her and goes, "What's the problem? Didn't you know I was going to be here?" No, I didn't know you were going to be here. I wouldn't have looked for you for 3 days if I knew you were going to be here. But what does she say to us? She says, look what you've done. Why did you treat us like this? As if Jesus did this to spite her, as if she was his motivation. How often we think we are other people's motivation when we are not. They're just acting in their own self. But yet, it affects us, and so we think they did it to us because it feels like they did it to us. And they're like, no. Why have you treated us like this, she asked. And Jesus does not respond like a little boy who thought he was lost. From his perspective, Mary is overreacting. And so he asks 2 questions. The first question, why were you searching for me? And the second question, didn't you know I would be in my Father's house? Now, the second question is the one that the scholars find more interesting because it's full of Greek problems. Because often we hear, didn't you know, it's translated, didn't you know I'd be in my Father's house? Or didn't you know I would be about my Father's business? This is kind of the 2 basic translations we hear. The problem is, in the Greek, what it actually says is, I must be in the of my Father. It doesn't give you the direct object. It doesn't tell you what he's in the. It kind of just leaves it there. And you're meant to fill it in. So kind of what we might do today is fill in a word like stuff. Didn't you know I would be about my Father's stuff? And I must be about the stuff of my Father. It's a little confusing, admittedly, and we can see why they made an effort to kind of clean this sentence up a little bit in the English. It doesn't really help us very much. And I think that they both work, this I'll be about at my Father's house, I'll be where my Father is, that's his stuff. And I'll be about his business, that's his stuff. So I think they're good translations of the meaning behind the text. And I think that what it's really trying to say is Jesus was always focused on God's will above everything else. And the boy Jesus makes his claim here for being centered upon God. Of course, this is where I am. This is what I'm all about. This is me. But I think, so that's what the scholars like. They like to talk about that question because, there's all these resources they can go to. But I think the more interesting question is the first one. Why were you searching for me? Because I think this asks us a good question. We know why Mary was searching for him. I was searching for you because you're my little boy and you weren't where you were supposed to be. You were supposed to be with me and you weren't with me. And that's why I was searching for you. So that's a simple kind of answer to that question. But I think if we look at it from a theological perspective, each of us came here today to worship because we're searching for Jesus. But why? Why are you searching for Jesus? What do you want from him? Do you, like Mary, want him to be where you are? Do you want him to do something that needs done? Do you need some healing that needs done? Do you have some anxiety? Do you need him to lessen? I think that's legit. I think that Mary, that's what Mary wanted. And I think that it's okay. It says he went back with her, right? He went back to Nazareth and he was obedient. Jesus does this for us. He comes to us when we need him. But there's another possible answer here. Why are we looking for Jesus? Are we searching for him so that we can be where he is? Like he said, he needed to be where the Father was, so that we can join him at the Father's house, going about the Father's business, being in the Father's stuff. I think it's a good question to ask ourselves today. Why are we here? Why are we searching for Jesus? It's important for you to know this about yourself, because it reveals something about where you are in your relationship to Christ. Are you still stuck in a place where you just need him to come to you? Because you need him to lessen your anxiety, to fill a need, to be who you need him to be for you so that you can get it together. I think that's okay. And he'll do that for us. He'll be that for us. But I think that we can go for more. Once we get past that place, that's not the end. Once Jesus gets us whole, there's more to find. We can still keep searching for him, because then we can find him, so that we too can be about his Father's business, so that we too can be in the Father's stuff. So today, this Christmas tide, think about that. Consider, with all the things around you and all the things within you, why are you searching for Jesus today? Why are you searching? And I pray that whatever you're searching for today, you will find it. Amen.